Sometimes I'd like to be alone in my own mind. I feel at home within these walls. I fear my own absence of association.
Hello everybody and welcome along to the World GT Championship Season 8. It's Meeting 5, not Meeting 4 as the graphic says. And it is here at Daytona for the second of our endurance races here on the iRacing Esports Network. My name is Paul Smith. Alongside me is Chaz Draco. I'm on the camera work as well, doing double duty with this Sam Ballo, trackcams22.com, providing us all of the track cams. And well, after an interesting round of the championship at Monza, we head on to the second endurance race, and Daytona at night time. It's a completely different challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it's worlds apart from some of the other rounds that we've had, and I think that, as I said last time, and I've used this phrase a lot already this season, and the fact that we've only had 2 endurances, including this one, is just testament to how important it is. But it's a different bag, it really is. You have to have such a different skill level to it. A lot of these drivers, especially the Williams drivers as well, this is their bag.
Yeah.
Mutes his mic by accident.
Yes.
The endurance aspect of it, you know, being able to stay that consistent throughout an entire race, especially 1 hour 45 minutes. Some of these drivers, when they've done series before that are endurance related, they only do an hour's stint and then they'll jump out the car. Most of the drivers in this grid have done 24-hour races on iRacing, or the Petit Le Mans, for example, 10 hours or 12 hours of Sebring. So they know about the consistency, but being able to do it and how good you are at it isn't just the fact that you've done it before. So I think that we're going to see a really good mix here tonight, maybe a bit of a different result, and the fact that these guys don't get another chance. There's not 3 sprint races. If you're out, you're out. If you have an incident, you've got to just get on with it. So it's going to be focusing for these lot, I can tell you that, and it's very pressurizing and very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take a look at the season as a whole then. So last week we were at Monza for 3 20-minute sprint races. Here today, as you can see at the bottom of that graphic, an endurance race at Daytona Road. So it's 1 hour 45-minute race, which means there's going to be 2 mandated pit stops happening in this one, and the points that they score will not be quite as high as the points that they would score for a full 3 race sprint challenge, but still it's only a few points short of that. Speaking of the points here, Chaz, this championship is actually quite close still.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Pete Harrod, as you can see there, he was the, I think, joint second highest scoring driver of the last race meeting, and he was telling us that he didn't actually get a chance to practice until qualifying. His first laps were qualifying, so He's jumped up to third overall in the championship. Ross McFarlane had a bit of a different third race to how he had planned, but still, himself and Rose as well now tied with Arana in 5th place there. Christian's doing very well. We spoke to him last week, and it was always good to speak to him. You've got then George McClay with Cam Dance, Harold Stadler, and Carl Moore, but you can just see how much that incident at Monza has hurt Alex Arana. He was 2nd in the championship going into that race meeting, and he leaves tied 5th. It's pretty amazing. Moreno Sirica is going to take some catching with the consistency he's got, but it's a very, very tasty top 10, that is.
Yeah, tasty top 10 in your pro drivers. Oh, look at this. The graphic actually worked this week. Let's show you the Pro-Am drivers standings, and it's Mike Horner currently leading that one. He's got quite a bit of a lead over Chris Wood. I'm actually surprised to see Wood up there in 2nd place because he's not had the best of seasons by his own high standards. Daniel Lee in 3rd with Ethan Bass not that far behind. So you can see from Wood down, it's a really tight championship for the Pro-Am standards.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, even last season the Pro-Am standings were so close all the way through, and it's hard to actually classify any of the drivers in this field as Pro-Am because deciding where the Pro class stopped and where the Pro-Am class started last season was just unbelievably difficult. I was one of the admins for it, and I know that the amount of discussion that went into it from the guys to try and set that classification, my lord, it was amazingly close between everyone and all the stats and things that we figured it out on, but that middle pack, I must say, no offence to the pros, but that middle pack is probably the most exciting class in here because it's so tense.
Certainly is. Speaking of tense as well, John Roberts making his way up to the top of the amateur standings ahead of Chris Byram, who went into last round in the lead. Van Rijn in 3rd place. He stayed where he was. The chairman of the Morgan Butler fan club here will be not happy to see him in 4th place. But Powell, Blake, Draper, Crowther, Chong, they're all... Again, it's all quite a close championship. That one a little bit more spread out than the Pro-Ams, but still, everything to play for.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, if you look at the case of Kieran Chung down there in 10th, he has to get 8 points more than Crowther and then take it to 11 points total, let's say. And he could be ahead of Tony Draper. So, well, 10 points even. He could be ahead of Tony Draper. And with how spread out this field is, and I mean, we do see more incidents in this field towards the back in the lower third, but that can just sometimes be a little bit of inexperience, a bit less sort of time in the car, or not so much experience with close racing door to door, you know, a little bit of spatial awareness maybe going amiss, but the fact that you can just have one good result in that class and it will project you very high. And John Roberts, you know, I've raced with him for years, and I mean, you have as well, Paul. He's a very consistent driver. He does get involved in incidents, but they're not really his own fault a lot of the time. He is just one of those drivers that's there scoring points again and again, and he's showing us right now, as you see on the graphic, that it works.
Yeah, absolutely, it certainly does. And you know, if I could take my hat off because of me wearing a headset, I can't, but if I could, I would take my hat off to him for getting himself up into that position. Now, the pro team standings, so there's only 9 pro teams in the championship here, but look at how close that last round with Josh Thompson unfortunately not able to race last week for Williams Esports, plus the 2 incidents that both Alex Arana and Moreno Sirica got involved in, has really brought Pure Sims OBP up into that championship battle.
Yeah, that's the thing. We were saying it at Monza with the sprint race format there. It threw up a little bit of a different result to what we were expecting, and it just so quickly can close up a championship, change things around. And that misfortune for Arana was the nail in the coffin for that gap, really, because with Josh not being there as well, having that little incident just gave away that sort of extra bank of points that they had. So it was all down to Sirica. And suddenly, Pure Sims OBP, I mean, not that they weren't looking like title fighters originally, but there was a gap opening up every week from Williams Esports. It's gone now, and they can really think, right, we've got a chance here, boys. All we need is a bit of a misfortune from them guys time to time. Keep our noses clean, and this title fight is on.
Certainly is. Final championship to look at then is the Pro-Am Teams Championships, and basically, if you're not in a boosted car, then you're not going to be fighting for a championship here, really, because they've pulled a quite considerable lead over Team Mad. msignsuk.com. Don't worry, we've got your graphic corrected, guys, so don't worry about that. They're in 4th place. They're in with a bit of a shout, but then everyone just seems to drop off from that front battle.
Yeah, the gap does spread out a little bit there. It's a bit close in the middle there between Team Lizard Motorsport and KRD, and then only what's that? I can't figure that out. 46 points back to P1 Racing. XBR and Vulcan Sim Racing quite close together as well. But yeah, at the top though, Boosted 6 points apart for those teams. They won't be that bothered really if one team overtakes the other, if Boosted Motorsport end up at the top, because let's face it, same stable, and they'll be very happy with that. And Team Mad have raced with those guys for a long time as well, and I think that friendly rivalry is only going to be rekindled more and more as that battle continues this season.
Well, there we get to see the stunning view that we get to see here at Daytona at night around this track. It's going to be fully in the night is today's race, and well, there's not actually that long to go before we head on into the race. So what we'll do is we'll bring up the track conditions on the side here. So there you go, there's the conditions. It's 21 degrees air temperature, 22 degrees track temperature, so tyres really won't be an issue in this one. It's overcast, as it says on that graphic there, 63 degrees humidity and a 16 km/h wind here at Daytona. I mean, it's all about that high speed, and we've seen that the fastest car appears to be the BMW, although saying that, I've not actually seen Alex Arana here in this race. So
that's a good point.
It's Sarika and Thompson, they're at the head of the standings in qualifying at the moment, but...
Matt Draycott down there in last. Go on, son. He's not having the greatest of times so far, but you know they're still trying to get to grips with that Ferrari. I'm in a group chat with Steve, Matt, and Niall, and they have struggled so far, and they're thinking about changing to the Mercedes. In all honesty, but they've been weighing up the fact that they know that a BOP could be coming, and you never know, because we've both been in the situation before, Paul, where we've been in a championship similar to this. The cars have changed partway through, and you've thought, I'm not going to change. I'm just going to stick with it. And I think we've had both sides of the puzzle on that, because that's not even a phrase, but you've
both sides of the coin.
That's it. Yes. Thank you. I've changed car before, and it's not worked. And I think you did a change. I can't remember what season it was.
I didn't change.
No, you stuck with it, and then the car actually stayed all right in comparison. I think it can go both ways. You know, you can change, the other car suddenly becomes better, or you can stay with it, and the car just gets worse, and the other car gets better. And yeah, it's pretty bad. And apparently, I need more LEDs in this room. Well, they go on a rainbow circulation actually, but it messes with my webcam, so I'm not going to do it. And I've got more LEDs under this desk as well. So.
Let's have a look. Just final points of order to get through here. A few penalties to be served here with qualifying. So qualifying bans for several drivers. So Cameron Dance, Gavin Baker, James Whitehouse, Matthew Bunn, who's one of the series admins. He's the lead admin of the series. Naughty boy, he should know better. And Stephen Burke, the guys who have got to start from the back of the grid here to be able to take part in this race. We've got 45 cars taking part in this race. We've got about a minute before the grid sets. Final thoughts, challengers, what are these drivers expecting here in the next hour and 3/4?
Turn 1 is a nightmare at Daytona. The amount of times I've gone into there on the brakes thinking, oh great, brake here, turn in. Why are you doing that, car? Especially this thing, this old thrust vector Ferrari, when we raced there in the 24-hour. It was a right piggy on the brakes, because you're suddenly coming off the banking, the car tries to settle while it's braking and turning, and then suddenly it levels out, and then you've got to think about the fact there's a little bit of a bump on the way in as well, and it's an absolute nightmare. I think we're going to see a couple of cars go around there. Sometimes they end up on the inside of the wall, sometimes they end up spitting it out the other way if they overcorrect it, and other times they'll get caught up by other cars behind that don't quite see them. So there's going to be a lot of incidents there, and I think the bus stop as well is going to be a tricky point, but watch out for the slipstreaming around the oval section, because it's going to be very exciting indeed.
Well, there you go. There's the front row of the grid then. Sarika and Thompson for Williams Esports ahead of McFarlane and Watson, who's the top Pro-Am. Look at that, up in 4th place, getting a really good qualifying for Adam there in that one. Alex Neller in the Venerable Ford in 5th place ahead of Pete Harrod. Mike Horder and Michael Evdoka 7th and 8th places ahead of McClay, Blackall, Hackerson and Chris Wood. Lewis Bibby, Simon Field, Ethan Bass, Michael Gray take us down to 16th place on the grid. Christian Rose ahead of Jan Cup, Harold Statler and Simon Underhill rounds out your top 20, Chaz.
Does indeed. Then we've got Steve McCaffrey with Daniel Lee alongside him in the msignsuk.com car. There is the proof that the graphic has changed. Thank you very much. Craig Jones is 23rd, just ahead of Adam Hedgecock in the number 13 McLaren. Then it's Lars Van Rijn and Ben Gregory on row 13. And we have John Roberts, current AM Championship leader, with Tony Draper. Then it's Adam McNally alongside Mark Woodhouse, rounding out your top 30 with Kieran Chung and Dean Powell on row 16. Then it's Morgan Butler. He had a great week last week. Tom Jacobs has done 2 laps of practice before this, so don't judge his pace off that. We know he's got good race pace. Matisse van Delden is 35th with Chris Byram in 36th. They'll be looking to improve from there. It's an all-team Lizard Motorsport row 19 with Draycott and Crowther. I think so, it was the other way around. Cam Dance is down there with his penalty. Carl Moore is rounding out your top 40, Paul. And then we've got what we're going to call the stragglers.
Yes, Michael Blake, James Whitehouse, Steve Burke, Gavin Baker, and then Nathan Dixon rounding out your 45 car grid here. And we're almost set for the race start here.
Sorry mate, I just need to mention, I've just had a message off Michael Blake. He's just put, God, I hate this car. I didn't even get to quali as it kills him on me out. It kills me on the outlap every time. So that's why Michael's all the way down there.
Well, it's worth pointing out Carl Moore actually hasn't taken to the grid either, so we're missing Carl from the start of this one. But as we head on into NASCAR's turns 3 and 4, you see the grid making their way around. The Williams cars at the front, just 2 of them, as we mentioned. Altarana not here tonight, not able to take part, so he's missing today. But we're getting ready for the start of this one. It's going to be 1 hour and 45 minutes of action here for you all here on the World GT Championship, brought to you by 3M, by Pure Sims and by Simortal. So make sure you check out those sponsors. Pace car goes on to pit road then. We're all set for the start. Green flag in the air, away we go then. The 2 Williams cars getting a good start away, and it's Josh Thompson around the outside who actually gets a nose ahead of his teammate into turn number 1. Now the question is everybody going to make it around turn number 1, or is there going to be any form of accident? Doesn't appear that way so far. Everybody working their way through there. Nicely done to everybody, apart from Adam McNally, who's decided to take a trip around, and from 29th, he's joining right alongside Jacobs. We've got a car stopped as well. Who is that?
Nella.
That's Nella in the Ford. He started 5th, and he's all the way down now. He's having to wait for everybody to get past. That's at the International Horseshoe.
Yeah, he's had a real issue there, maybe some contact, well I'd hope so, with that amount of damage, and he was going off the circuit again there as well. I was going to say that was the sort of low downforce spec version of that Ford GT, but maybe it's got some pace around here. We saw Ben Hackerson going 3 wide into turn 1. They were 3 wide just ahead there as we look at Stadler and Ethan Bass, and losing out there is Simon Field. He's had to run wide because of that, but onto the banking for the first time then. Fantastic to see these cars at such an angle. It's very aggressive here at Daytona. And Harold Stadler just ahead of his teammate there. And I'll tell you one thing, that Audi looks great in that livery. But side by side here, this is Adam Watson going past into 2nd place. What a fantastic performance by Watson so far. The Pro-Am 2nd overall here, Paul. This is epic stuff.
Has Sarika got damage to the front of his car?
He has, yeah.
He's got a slight bump to the front of his car. That will be hampering his top speed here, and he's going to be a sitting duck now for Pete Harrod, the current reigning champion. Here he comes alongside. In fact, he's got more than just damage at the front. He's got damage to the rear as well as Sarika. So something has happened on this first lap to your championship leader.
Yeah, it's definitely not gone well there. That's a very understatement. But well, I wonder whether, because if he's got damage on the front, he's not actually sort of lost that much time to his teammate originally, did he? I mean, I'm just confused, really confused here. He's got Ross McFarlane behind him. McFarlane was not right with them then. I'm wondering whether something does happen between these pair. Let's have a look. I'm thinking, does he get hit from behind and then hit the wall with the front of the car, maybe?
Well, that's what I'm looking for. So Watson had a heck of a move into turn 1 with Ross McFarlane. Now McFarlane has dropped down the order to 9th overall. So there's Nella. It's Nella. Oh, there it is. Oh my goodness. We'll get another look at that from offboard. But it's Nella that causes that. So what on earth happened to Alex Nella then?
Just watch him in the background. Oh, he's
lost it. He's just lost it. Cold tyres. There's nothing he can do there. And
yeah, McFarlane smacks into him, and that's where Ross lost the places. Arjuna called that in the chat as well. He said there was a car going off, and he reckons that was the car that hit him, and that's definitely correct, mate. And that has now been confirmed. But that's a real shame that as well, because both the Ford GTs were up there. Ben Hackerson is a little bit further back, just behind Sarika now, but Josh Thompson has cleared off now, Paul. That incident really helped him, but 4.3 second lead last time he triggered any sort of sector beams. Yeah, absolutely. Don't forget, if you do want to keep up to date with everything happening in this race, then it's racespot.tv/timing and the number 2. So that's racespot.tv/timing2 to keep up to date with everything happening here. And Sarika is on to pit road. He's having to get repairs. Now, the thing is, with this championship, you do get one free repair here. Yep, he's going to make the most of that and hopefully be climbing back up the order, but that's not what Williams wanted. This is reigning champion Pete Harrod and the number 1 Pure Sims OBP McLaren on the back of Adam Watson. Adam putting in a great showing so far. He's got Mike Horder behind him in the other McLaren, has Pete, and Mike is the reigning Pro-Am champion, so two of these guys certainly know what they're doing. But that Paceworks Esports Cobalt car looks very good out the corner. The Audi has got a lot of push out the corner, I've been told, but at high speed, just like the McLaren, it wants to kill you. So into the bus stop. They're not going to be the easiest cars to drive. Jake Blackhall in there as well here. We've got 3 Pro-Ams inside the top 5, Paul. They're really bringing it to the pro drivers tonight. Yeah, absolutely. They did a really good job in qualifying, did those Pro-Am drivers, as they're heading through turns 1 and 2 of the NASCAR layout. Heading down to the bus stop chicane. This is the problem area for the Audi, for the McLaren as well. Into the chicane they go. Got to have a good change of direction in the car. There's some overtaking further back as well. And in fact, Simon Underhill is having a few technical problems. I saw him dropping down the order. That was Mohamed Janko making his way past Ross McFarlane, who is, again, another one with significant damage from that Alex Nella incident. Yeah, the front of that car is really not looking healthy. Very buckled in, and there wasn't really a lot he could do. You don't really expect to see a car come from the right hand side. There it is, there's the pen, but look at that. Straight through goes Chris Wood. Absolute piece of cake in the McLaren. Janko, though, he's been a really impressive driver this season for Vulcan. He's we've not seen much of him before, or I haven't anyway. I've not seen him in any other series. Not either. But he's been a pleasant surprise, really pleasant surprise in that Audi. He's been exciting to watch. He's had a lot of battles with a lot of very respected drivers in this series, and he's been one of the very top Pro-Ams. He's put in a lot of great performances, but he's had a few incidents here and there which have sort of hindered him in his championship. But Chris Wood is thinking, right, let's have this together here, mate, as the iRacing Shadows do their thing on the right-hand side. Chris Wood, though, he's another driver, isn't he? He's such a lovely bloke, is Chris. He's so sedate and so chill. Well, speaking of Team Mad, we've lost Michael Blake. He's into the pit lane. He's taken a turp, so something's obviously happened to Michael there. So we'll have to see if we can try and find out what's happened to him. We've caught the end of it. It's in turn 1. There's a shock. Let's see if we can just rewind the tape a little bit more and get a view of what's happened here to Michael. That's one of the Renvale cars behind. Is that Tom Jacobs? He's just lost it. Yeah, I thought there might have been a bit of contact, but no. That's unfortunate. That broke the front left. You can see the car dip down massively there. That's That's going to be terminal damage. That is Ashley Blake Hood in the chat. Good to see you, mate. Yeah, Michael's not. Oh, there's that Janko. Oh, commentators curse for God's sake. Honestly, that was one of the most delayed commentators curses I've ever had. But we were saying before that it's not easy to get through the bus stop, and well, actually, to be fair, as we cut away from him, what was I saying about the high speed through the bus stop being a killer in the Audi? Oh, he's had contact actually with Wood on the way in, and then
tried to save it. He's tried to carry it through there.
Yeah.
And ended up the wrong way around. We'll get another look from on board. So here's Janko.
I think he just turned into Chris, you know.
Yeah.
Not to sound like we're defending Team Mad just because it's your teammates, of course.
Well, let's have another look then. So here comes Wood to the inside, into the braking zone. Janko, yeah, he's just turning in. I don't think he's given quite enough room there, and then car's going too fast, and around it goes.
He was very lucky not to make contact a second time, because you saw how close he got to that apex curb on the exit of the bus stop. I'm not sure whether Chris maybe took a bit too much curb there to avoid him and might have got a slowdown, but yeah, that was a scary moment even after that. Just looking a bit further down the order, I'm just trying to see if any drivers are making their way back through. Sarika's just overtaken Tom Jacobs for 34th position. He's now got Nathan Dixon and Niall Crowther just in front. Well, I'll say that. He's already got past Crowther, and then it's Nathan Dixon in the SCC Racing Audi. And we go on to the banking again. It's a bit of an older dashboard in the BMW, but what a fantastic sounding car. I do say it every single time. But the BMW is one of those absolute joys of a GT3 car, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a superb car to drive. It's my choice of car for a GT3 as we go into the bus stop. There's a bit of smoke ahead, but it seems okay. Look at how late Sarika is on the brakes compared to Nathan Dixon. That goes to show the difference in pro and AM drivers right there.
Yeah, that was incredible stuff there. And look at the pace that he's carried on the exit as well. Gavin Baker thinks, I'm not even going to bother, mate. Through you go, off on your way. But it's wise driving that, though, from Gavin, because he can now use the slipstream from Sarika and try and get away a little bit from Dixon. And you've got to have that sort of wit about you in these races, because it's not just about the 20-minute sprint. And, that is
Daniel
one of the
Lee.
M Signs UK cars. And fittingly, his teammate goes through as Michael Blake comes back out on track. But, yeah, he's had one of those moments. And we're going to see this a lot, I think. He might have had a wobble on the way in, maybe on the brakes. Let's have a look, Paul.
Well, they were going three wide there to start with. It was Chris Wood was there. I'm seeing who the other car is. Oh, Wood gets collected. Around he goes.
Oh.
Wow. Oh, was that? No, it wasn't
Woodhouse.
Wood. It was Woodhouse. Sorry, Matt Woodhouse. Apologies.
Yeah, that little just that tiny tap on the way in just upsets the car, and then it flicks the other way, and then just taps Daniel Lee off onto the part of the oval. Let's have a look then. And in all honesty, I think Woodhouse comes down there across the front of the Ferrari, and he gets very lucky, doesn't it, that it does pretty much a full 360, and then he carries on nearly at the expense of Ben Gregory. But I think Mark just thought he'd got rid of the overlap there with the Ferrari to do that.
Well, we'll have a look back at the front, because Jake Black... Oh, now, who's that? That's Harrod with a slowdown penalty, so he must have cut across the chicane, so that's allowed Watson to pull away. You've got Horder, Blackhall and Hackerson all together here, and Ben Hackerson putting the pressure on, trying to get past. Now, this is going to be interesting, because it's a Radicals Online driver in the Ford, and then you've got Jake in the Pure Sim supported entry as well. That's the SimSport, isn't it? The SimSport USA car, isn't it? The number, I think 97. It'd be good if I could actually read numbers on the side of these cars. As yeah, you were talking about an older dashboard. Well, this is an even older dashboard. It looks like it's come from the Second World War, but it hasn't. It is a Ford GT, and it is Ben Hackerson into the second of the International Horseshoes, and we're going to have to cut away from this because Sarika's making moves, because Ben Gregory's had an incident.
Oh, Ben having quite rotten luck this season. He changed from the Audi to the BMW. Let's have a look. He's having to defend here. I think that's James Whitehouse behind him, or is it Draper?
I think it's
Oh,
Draper.
Draper's just late on the brakes. He does straighten up in the hope that he would miss Gregory once Gregory turns into the corner, but yeah, too late, I'm afraid. Too little too late as well, and Sarika goes up past him there. Draper recovers into a bit of clean air just ahead of him there, so he can gather his thoughts, but yeah, we've seen that before. You know, drivers just try and straight line it there, and it's actually a very surprising it's surprising when you get to the International Horseshoe, because you think, oh, it's quite a long, wide, fast hairpin, you don't need to brake that much, but it really catches a lot of people out because there's not really any defining brake markers there. You just have to think, right, we need to just figure it out every lap, because it's one of those corners that you can seem to brake in the same place every lap and it doesn't quite make sense because it's all based on the run off turn 1. But this is Blackhall now, all over the back of Mike Horder. Get the sausages out and put them on the bonnet, because I tell you what, they'll be cooked in seconds behind that thing. He's putting the pressure on his Jake, but Horder he's really soaking it up at the moment, and that's one thing he was good at last season. I mean, he's not Pro-Am champion for nothing. Misses the apex by a little bit there, to say the least, but yeah, he's soaking this up well. He's got a little bit of damage on the left rear of that, I think. McLaren just looks a little bit crumpled, whether it's that or just the design, the dazzled camo working its magic. But
I think it is just the design of the car. It does actually look to be fairly in one piece, does that McLaren, so that seems to be fine at the moment. But yeah, this is a close battle, and the thing is, if these two battle too hard, they're going to allow Adam Watson to pull away. Now, he hasn't really pulled away that much in front of these. He's only a second and a half up the road. You can see him just up the road ahead of them. So, you know, they're not completely out of touch there, but they don't want to be fighting too hard, or else he'll pull away.
yeah, that's it. You've got to think about this in two ways here. You need to be careful, because if you're going to make a move, you want to do it where you don't hold each other up too much, and this is a way to do it. You see, though, Horder breaks early to make sure that they're not side by side into the bus stop. Jake can try and push forward now to go after Watson. He takes a lot of curb on the exit, though. Hackerson's going to want to come through here as well. And one of the best things to see out there is the fact that this Ford is still competitive. I absolutely love it. I've seen in other leagues that there's a driver drove it for the sake of driving it, and he was incredibly quick, and that's one of the Century cars ahead there, the Century Sim Racing machine. I think that's James
Draper.
Whitehouse. No, it's Draper. It is Draper. Sarika going past him now up into 23rd, and it's a good comeback drive so far from Sarika. He's actually made it onto the first page of my timing screen now already, bearing in mind that he was right at the back of this field, so fantastic job.
Well, he's not doing a bad job of a recovery drive, but just in front of him, you've got Jones. He's battling it out with Van Rijn as they head into the turn number 1 down the inside. Can he get the move done? Yes, he can, although you could get the run out of that corner on the corner exit, but not able to do that. And, well, Van Rijn now putting pressure on. He's had contact
with his teammate.
I
think, was that Nella?
I think it was, and Nella's a lap down, isn't he?
Yeah,
or is he?
No, I think he might be in position. No, he's a lap down.
Yeah.
He is a lap down, and I think that was down to his internet. We've seen that car blinking a little bit. It was blinking before when Michael Blake was coming out the pit lane. And I think he's had the same again there, you know, Paul. I think he was just behind him. McNally's gone back to the pits as well, by the way. But, yeah, that looked like Nella just had a bit of an issue there, and, well, the blink was what caused it. Here's what happened to McNally going into the horseshoe. Oh, hopefully he's not going to get caught. Oh, there's James Whitehouse.
There's another one as well. And McNally he tried to do a little bit of a Tokyo drift and ended up off, and he's just decided to park the car. That's it.
That was James Whitehouse getting hit by one of the SCC cars there. I think that would have been Nathan Dixon. There's two of them out there, I believe. It's Craig Jones and Nathan Dixon. I think it was Nathan that did that. Apologies if not. I think that James was a little bit further down the order. He won't be happy with that. Here's two Texsense Fitstein Motorsport cars right together as we look at Lewis Bibby in 7th position now as he gets past George McClay, his teammate, and gets a really good run through turn 1 as well and opens up that gap. But there is that run on the exit that you mentioned, Paul, where it can close up on the way in and then open up again on the way out, or vice versa, and it looks like George has got the pace. And it's going to be hard to tell these cars apart because they've both got yellow LEDs on the side. One's 313 and the other's 33.
Yeah, so that's not exactly helping us commentators here, but there he goes. They head on through the kink in towards the second of the International Horseshoes on this infield part of the circuit. Now, behind them, they've got Evdoka, they've got the recovering Pete Harrod, who after that slowdown penalty, remember he was in second place when he got that slowdown penalty at the chicane, it's all the way down to 9th place. He's got Chris Wood not that far behind him. But I want to draw your attention to the standings overall, because yes, Josh Thompson has a 9-second lead, but then second, third and fourth are all Pro-Am drivers.
Yeah, they're doing an amazing job at the moment. Watson has been a real star in second place. Jake Blackhall and Mike Horder have made their way up from inside the top 10 to be even closer to the sharp end of this field. As we look at the two Ferraris now, looking back from Lewis Bibby with his teammate George McClay behind him, and then it's Michael Evdoka in the Ferrari, and then Pete Harrod after that slowdown earlier. Pete is making his way through. Look at that, Evdoka knows that McLaren is quick, so he's got out of the way so Pete can get the slipstream off the cars in front, and this is prime time to be working together. Both those Pure Sims OBP cars thinking, right, let's not hold each other up, I'll let you have the pace, you can go and try and be the key that opens the door between these cars ahead, and then we'll get some moves. And look at Pete on the brakes there, he's so good on the brakes, is Pete. And I mean, I've been to Pete's house and seen him drive in a sim race, and he's just so under control. And the thing is, he's so modest about it as well. He's just great on the brakes, and he's a very impressive driver. But yeah, he just, you'll say to him, how do you do that? And he'll just go, oh, just drive. It's just how Pete is. But yeah, I think he's going to put some good pressure on these two TechSense cars now. But it's 2-on-2, so the teamwork's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, so two TechSense Fitstite cars against the two Pure Sim OBP cars as they head on out to that second International Horseshoe. Just behind them, Chris Wood, Michael Gray, Simon Field, who's having a good outing in this race so far, up in 12th place, and Harold Stadler rounding out the 13th spot. And this is all in one queue here. They're all a little bit spread out here, so they're not really making any moves at the moment. And it's almost as if we've got the old, like you used to get in the Grand Prix World Championship Series, the old ERS and DRS trains where nobody really gains or loses time.
Yeah, that's it. You always do hear people talking about the balance of performance in GT3 cars and how they all work, and the simple fact of it is that it is meant to be a balance of performance. People will say, oh, your car's faster in a straight line than mine, and then start moaning about it when they're in a car that's quicker in the corners, and it's like, that is the point. You know, some of these cars have different characteristics over one another, and it's good to see that it translates from the real world well into the sim. Now, Pete Harrod has got these two cars trying to work together in front of him here now, but seeing that is going to be the fact that, well, he's now thinking, okay, there's a bit of movement going on here, let's try and pry the door open a bit. Lewis Bibby is now back in front of George McClay, the two of them swapping over again, and we're going to see more and more of that as the race goes on, I think, between these pair.
Yeah, this is where the closest sort of big pack of cars is. There are other packs of cars further down your order. You've got like Adam Hedgecock just ahead of Craig Jones and Tony Draper, 20th to 22nd. That's a little mini pack of cars here. But this is the longest queue of traffic out there on track, and I feel now that McClay is going to be a little bit of a cork in the bottle here for the rest of them, because he's already just dropped back a little bit from his teammate, half a second, so it's not the biggest of gaps. But as you pointed out, the speed of that McLaren in a straight line is sensational.
Yeah, Pete's going to be just making sure that he gets a good run out of there, out of the double left-hander, and a good run out of the bus stop. He may break a little bit earlier as we go on board with said Harrod, watching the speed build up and up and up. Very chunky wheel on the McLaren, I do quite like it. Onto the brakes. You can see he doesn't tuck the car in early. He takes a bit of a wide entrance, makes sure he gets it hooked up. Look at that bit of corrective oversteer as well. And again, oh, it's one of the Team Lizard cars. And we'll have to, I think it might have been
Draycott.
Oh, for God's sake. It's, yeah, well, I was said before, didn't I?
What was that about the better Draycott?
Yeah, well, personally, he's known as the better Draycott. And in terms of driving, I'm not sure. He's actually just joined Fitstite Motorsport as well for the upcoming seasons and other events. That was Josh Thompson.
Yeah, that was your leader.
I know that we say to hold the brake, but in that case,
let it roll back.
Let it roll off the circuit. But the thing is, with the mirrors, it's hard to know where the back of the car is sometimes. So he turns to the right. Oh, the front end just pinches in on the right. And then you can see Josh wants to go left, then he goes right. Great reactions, but I think there was a little bit of luck involved there as well, wasn't there, Paul?
Yeah, luck is one word for it. I think it's a change of underpants that Josh will need after that. He'll have seen life flash before his eyes. As I mentioned about there being a bit of action further down, Tony Draper has made his way past Craig Jones, and Jones was flashing his headlights, which of course we all know is the international symbol of move out my way, I want to come back past.
And it also gives you 15 horsepower more, we know that. But yeah, I think Craig might have been the one that caught up in the incident before, but I'm not sure, because there's 488 and number 88 with those two cars, I'm pretty sure. Nathan Dixon's number 488,
yes,
and Craig Jones is number 88, and I often do get the pair of them confused. There's not really that much different about their cars from one another, but yeah, I think he's just... I get flashing the lights, but when you get a driver that sits behind you and flashes them constantly, it does get a little bit irritating. And you may say, it doesn't get to you, and may focus on it, but yeah, it does get a bit irritating. And Michael Gray, he's trying to not get irritated behind the back of Chris Wood here in the BMW. He's going to try and go round the outside slightly, but no, he's just getting through. And oh, Ashley Blakewood tyre compounds being announced by iRacing. Now that is tasty. That's news.
Yeah, live news here on the iRacing Esports Network. Then we are getting variable tyre compounds on the Formula One car. So they are coming. That is for sure.
There's one place to start it, at least, in a car that no one drives.
So, well, no, they do. To be fair,
yeah.
They're actually introducing that as the change of the Grand Prix Series car. iRacing, so it's going to be back to the McLaren, and I suspect that that's the reason why. Yeah,
that adds up now. It does add up, and I say that loosely because I don't pay too much attention to what people drive in official races, so do forgive me, iRacing, I apologise. But
just remember which channel you're on right now.
Love you. But no, to be honest though, it's a fantastic move because that can be applied to a lot of different things, and it'll make racing even more exciting. And hopefully, if we are able to see, because I'm not going to mention it, but in other sims, there's the ability to change tyre compounds, but you don't visually see the difference between the pair. So us as commentators would never know what compound someone is on. So if we can see that difference, that's going to be brilliant for us as viewers as well, and commentators. And it's going to be brilliant for other drivers. And if they've got like a crew chief on their team as well, who can say, right, so-and-so's on soft, so-and-so's on mediums, let's get you on some hard tyres, try and beat them in terms of track position. Yeah, that's going to be epic. But we carry on as Sarika has now got past McFarlane, who was obviously the car that hit him earlier.
Yeah, not out of choice. It is worth pointing out again, just to make sure people are aware. Thijs van Delden as well has ended up on pit road. He's taken a tour down to pit road. But yeah, Ross McFarlane really struggling with that front end damage. He's trying to play it to get to the pit stop, whereas Sarika, he decided to go early, and in fact McFarlane decides to come onto pit road. I think that's a little bit early, isn't it, for the first of the two mandated pit stops?
He might have been running low fuel, or he might just be doing it to get a bit of clear air, because we've seen it before.
Repairs.
Yes, very true. He might want the car to behave as best as it can, and he's thinking, well, there's no point me getting a car that behaves at its best while there's traffic around me, as Tony Draper has had some traffic very close to him, it seems, as Tom Jacobs, we've seen him go past people twice there now when they've had an incident, so he's just picking them off bit by bit. But yeah, Ross will want a bit of clean air in a car that is at its best. He's behind Adam Hedgecock. Here is Tony Draper around the outside. What's he going to do? Oh, very aggressive into turn one. That's way too hot. On the brakes, lucky not to hit that inside wall. He does
hit the tyres, but that won't do as much damage as hitting that inside wall. We'll try and actually get enough look from on board. And we'll have a look from on board, Tony. This will be a wild ride for you.
Oh, that's all too familiar, that, to be honest.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's... he, like you say, though, he got away with that damage-wise, I think. We're obviously not sure what the back of the car will feel like, whether it'll be a little bit loose, but he got away with hitting that inside wall and causing a bigger incident, so
now
carries on.
Pete Harrod moving his way forward. He's got to the front of that queue of traffic. He's got ahead of Lewis Bibby now, so he got ahead of McClay earlier, now ahead of Lewis Bibby, and behind them Evdoka and Wood. Those two are battling it out as well, so 3 Ferraris together, 2 Texense Fitzai Motorsports cars, the PSM OBP car and the Team Mad McLaren now trying to put the pressure on and trying to make his way past Evdoka here.
Yeah, there's a bit of a train as well, so he's got to think about whether they will lose touch with the cars ahead, because when you're in this situation, if you're one of the cars defending, you've also got to think, right, am I going to lose time to the cars ahead of me here? Is this train going to break up? And what Chris Wood will want to do is get a move done on the banking that doesn't affect them too much. Now, Evdoka, he's a smart driver, so if Chris does go for this on the banking now, you can see he takes a nice late apex, doesn't clip the curb and unsettle the car too much. Evdoka carries great speed off the corner though, but I think if he makes it here, Evdoka will just let him do it. And there's no point defending it, because, as I've said, they'll lose time to one another. He's not closing that much, you know, that Ferrari looks really well fitted to the banking here. I mean, we know it used to be very fast in a straight line, but it looks good here, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think Wood might be just carrying a little bit more downforce than, say, Pete Harrod was. Oh, the second car, McClay, getting it a little bit wrong through the chicane. That checks up Evdoka, and here we come to the outside, but Wood has not got anybody going with him, so he's losing that draft, and that means he doesn't get that speed, so he's having to slot back in.
Yeah, it's a bit painful, isn't it? You think, oh, I've got a great run here. You go around the outside, and then as soon as you're out of that slipstream or having to obviously take a longer line around the corner, it's suddenly gone. But we've got Evdoka going to the outside of McClay now, although he brakes early. He doesn't want anything to do with that. He's just going to try and set it up for an easier move. But behind this now, we've got Michael Gray and Simon Field involved. So this has suddenly become a 7-car train, although Pete Harrod is trying to check out here. Lewis Bibby not letting him go just yet. Gray feels the need to go defensive on Field. But into the International Horseshoe. It's all very stable at this point, and you can tell, can't you, Paul, that this is an endurance race, not a sprint race, from just the way the guys are attacking this battle here.
Yeah, they're... I mean, we compare that to what we saw last week at Monza, where there was some ambitious moves being made, it must be said. But here, right now, Wood's just dropping a little bit back off of Evdoka. I think he's actually looking in his mirrors at Michael Gray rather than looking in front of him. Takes a little bit of a wider exit out the corner. And Gray, we know how quick that BMW is here as well in top speed wise. So Gray, as we go on board with him, he'll be lining up Chris. But I think everybody right now, if they feel that they can't make any moves, will be thinking, right, let's get some fuel saved. It makes it slightly quicker at the pit stops.
Yeah, very true indeed. It's all about the long game, these endurance races. As Chris Wood. Wow, that was sketchy, I think is the word. But we've all had moments there. There's plenty of curb to take through that bus stop, and because of the shifting of weight from the car going left initially, then to the right, and then over a little bump onto the left again, that McLaren is prone to sort of the death wiggle, as we used to call it, where it'll go one way and then it'll very suddenly snap the other. This is Jake Blackhall now on the back of Mike Horder. This is still going on. Jake just cannot fathom a way to get past him at the moment. Horder doing a great job. Hackison just sitting there at the moment. He's happy for that to happen because there's no need for him to push too hard at this point. He may be thinking we'll try and save something for after the pit stops. We've still got an hour and a quarter to go here, Paul. So it's all a bit plain sailing at this point, but we saw it at Sebring in the last endurance race. Once things go through their first set of pit stops and we see who's taking tyres early or who's going to take tyres later on, it gets more and more interesting as it progresses. Or
if they take tyres at all. Well, that's going to be an interesting shout, because it is quite cool here today out there on track. We saw it earlier, 22 degrees track temperature, so there may not be the need to take tyres. Worth pointing out, Moreno Sarica on his recovery drive. He's now up to 15th. He's just overtaken Christian Rose. He's got 4.5 seconds between him and Ethan Bass. Ross McFarlane, he's the one that's been on pit road. He is down in 28th at the moment. Cal Moore, who started from the pit lane, is in 23rd, and he's on the back of that queue of Craig Jones, Hedgecock and Daniel Lee.
That's a decent run so far, isn't it? That it's pretty impressive. This is Carl Moore then in the BMW number 6, Paceworks Esports Cobalt. You can see the pace difference as well. 1.5. Thank you, Paul. You love that thing, don't you? 1.5 seconds quicker, almost last time round on Craig Jones. So he's reining him in at the moment. And the SCC racing driver, he's the reigning AM champion. And you won't mind me saying, he wasn't the most exhilarating or in-your-face driver to watch last season. He was another one, just as I compared John Roberts to earlier, that was just scoring points after points after points, and he was keeping the car safe. And he had a fantastic season and really did a good job with it. He finished pretty much every race of the season and got loads of points each time. But you can see just how quickly Carl Moore is picking these guys off. Well, say that. Thank you, Carl. That's like a commentator's curse, but not as bad as he dives into the pits.
Yeah, so this is going to be the first of pit stops, and this is a planned pit stop. So we're at that phase of the race where people can start taking their planned pit stops here. Of course, 2 pit stops here mandated by the regulations, so that means that drivers, they are fuel limited, so they do limit the capacity of the fuel tanks on these cars to make it enforce them to be able to have to come onto the pit road twice. And we haven't really talked about strategy, so we might as well touch on it now, Chaz.
Yeah.
Strategy, do you take the quick pit stop early, do you take it late, or do you balance it out and try and go for 3 even stints?
I think for the first stint, you can't really plan too much. You never know what these races are going to throw up, what incidents you could get involved in early on, or how well your pace compares in the race some of the drivers around you. I think for the first stint, you just need to fuel it up all the way and just go for it. You can attack the tyres, just completely deplete the fuel and wait until it's running on fumes at the end. Check what your tyres are like and see how they feel when you get in, and then think, right, are we going to change them now, or do you want to try and do another stint and wreck them again and see if they'll take 2? And sometimes it doesn't always work because you don't get many chances at it. A lot of these drivers would have probably done a stint in practice just to see how it goes, but yeah, that first stint, you've just got to go for it. I think there's no point trying to hold back and plan for later in the race because you never know what you can get involved in.
Well, so there's this battle ongoing. Oh, now was that Watson in front of these two? No, it's his teammate who has come between them. So Watson's teammate, that is Kieran Chung, it is, getting between 2nd and 3rd place here. Now, Mike Horder had closed up a little bit of that gap to Adam in this battle, and Mike is trying his best to get out the way, get Chung out the way. Now, it is in the rules, I do remember reading this, that if you do have lap traffic coming up to lap you, you don't have to jump out the way, but you can't make it overly difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I've been commentating on a different sim recently where they follow GT rules compared to real life, where it's down to the car behind to get past. As we look at Craig Jones just turning it in, the Audi does like to snap on the brakes. One of the Team Lizard cars, one of the Century Sim Racing cars, and the Renvale Pitstyle Motorsport car. I think that was Tom Jacobs making yet more positions. But yeah, the GT3 rules, as far as I know, in real life as well, mean that if you're as quick, say you're a lapped car that's had an incident earlier on and you're as quick as some of the leaders, you don't have to get out of the way. You can just carry on your race and it's down to them to almost overtake you as if it was for position. A lot of them out of courtesy would get out of the way, and we're going to see that here. There's no point trying to defend or ruin someone's race, and a lot of these guys all do really get on. So I think the friendly atmosphere does reflect in the driving. As Horder has a bit of a nightmare into turn 1, but again gets the run on the exit. So it's one of those corners, isn't it, Paul? You can mess up the first bit, but so long as you get the car settled, you're actually quids in when you get on the exit, as we go on board with Wood again. Yeah,
I think there was an apex somewhere there. I just don't think that Mike was quite finding it. As Wood coming through the International Horseshoe, then he's right up behind Michael Evdoka, and he's not been able to make any progress here. Pete Harrod has pulled out about a second over these drivers here. So he has been able to make some progress forward as Pete away from them.
Is that Watson dropping down?
No, that's Chung.
Oh, yes,
traffic.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I thought Watson had an issue there, because it seemed like it was a move for position, but yeah, they are making their way through the lap traffic then. It's my eyes playing tricks on me, but Similar car, similar livery, so it's all good. But yeah, Chris Wood didn't get as good an exit there as he wanted, and you can see just ahead, Evdoka, he's conscious of that traffic and he's flashing his lights already saying, please let me pass before the bus stop. The bus stop.
Be careful now.
Because he knows that, well, yeah, as he gets out of the way, does he? Oh, that was close.
Wood's getting on the grass, almost losing control there.
Yeah, I think that unsettled the car and he may get a slowdown. Simon Field is right behind Mike Gray, behind him as well. But yeah, Kieran Chung left that to the last moment there to make it very clear that he was getting out of the way. But McFarlane, you could see, as soon as there was the opportunity to get past at the bus stop, he thought, right, I need to let this guy know because I want to get past and open up that gap. It's worked a little bit, but I know that Chris Wood's very quick and he'll be back on him again very soon.
Jake Blackhall's headed onto pit road, so he's got sick of being stuck behind Mike Horner, and he's thought, right, if I make a pit stop here, I can maybe get myself a bit of clear air, get some quick laps in as Gray runs wide. Simon Field goes down the inside. They're still side by side, and that is Field up a position, up into 10th place now, because Gray is behind, although Gray's having to look to the inside. No move forthcoming. That means Field moving up into that 10th place. Good move there to take advantage of the little mistake there.
Yeah, he lined that up. He knew that something like that was going to arrive on his doorstep eventually. He took a very late apex. He went nice and wide on the way in, and as soon as Gray went the tiniest bit wide on the exit, he thought, right, this is what I've been waiting for. Chuck it up the inside. You saw a little bit of corrective oversteer, and he got it nailed. Through he goes. And it just shows you that you can't plan a move out every time. If you know what you want to be doing eventually, you just got to keep plugging away and just be patient. They have lost time to this group ahead though, but that was down to the lap traffic earlier through the bus stop, so Young has been the real divider at this point, but still, these pair battling away just inside the top 10, and well, they're putting in a great performance overall, aren't they? I mean, these Pro-Ams have been a real breath of fresh air so far this race.
Josh Thompson onto pit road, so your leader is into the pits. He had a 15-second lead to Josh. This is just incredible. Hopefully he could keep this up because it's been an incredible drive. Gets into his pit stall now. Gets fuel, there's another car there. Adam Watson as well is onto pit road. Oh, we've got a bit of a pit party because George McClay, Lewis Bibby, the two teammates, now Michael Gray as well. He's heading onto pit road. So there's a number of cars going onto pit road. We could tell you, by the way, official retirements from the race. Simon Underhill, Adam McNally, who's been commenting about really struggling to get to grips with the car. Michael Blake, Matthias van Delden and Steve Burke, all retirements from this race.
Interesting that Steve's retired. I didn't see anything happen to him. I thought there was a car on the inside of the International Horseshoe earlier, wasn't there? One of the Team Lizard cars, but yeah, that's an odd one. We saw the spin from Draycott. We haven't seen any sort of strife for Crowther so far.
Now this could be interesting. Watson, and that is Jake Blackhall. So Watson with a long pit stop compared to Blackhall. They're going to come out the pits. Blackhall, does he look to the inside? They've got a Team Lizard car right in front of them, so that must be Draycott then in front of them. And Watson flashing the lights desperately, wanting to get by, because all of a sudden, with that pit stop cycle there, Blackhall, going for the shorter pit stop, has got himself right onto the tail of the man who was in second place.
Yeah, Draycott gets out of the way. He thinks, yeah, go on through, boys. I'm not going to get in the way of your fight. We've been told off for that before, in all honesty. But I'm surprised, that Watson stayed ahead there, because often the undercut does work. If you get the clear air first and you can just put in one really fast fast out lap, and your competitor just maintains the pace they were at, because at the end of the day he was in front, wasn't he, using the clear air before he pitted, and you will see a big difference. But yeah, Jake coming out still behind him there. That position is changing behind them as well. Draycott and Lars van Rijn is for position. Van Rijn. Draycott defending into the bus stop for 38th place. He'll want to be a lot higher than that. And we've seen good results from drivers like Matt, though, haven't we, from these endurance races before, Paul? Because if you just plug away with it, even if you start like 40th, you just plug away and survive. You've got half the battle won, haven't you? As long as you've not made any mistakes or had any accidents, you can get a really strong result out of these.
We've got a real pit party going on then. The rest of the drivers who didn't pit, so Ben Hackerson, Pete Harrod, Mike Horder, Michael Evdoka, all on pit road, as well as Christian Rose and the rest. So drivers coming in for their first pit stop now. Is it Simon Field? He is your race leader at the moment, 24 laps on his stint here. So he is at the front of your field. We'll give him a little bit of airtime here because he was at the back of that leading pack, really, wasn't he? Of that 6th down to 13th. But yeah, Simon doing a good job. He's obviously saved enough fuel, and that McLaren is notably over the years been quite frugal with its fuel as well. So Simon getting at least a lap in the books as a leader.
Yeah, you can say he's head of the field, but he's going to be enjoying the fact that he gets this clear air at the moment as an in lap, and there he is going into the pits, then onto the brakes. And well, I know it's frugal on fuel, but it spits so much out of it out of the back of it. I'm actually quite surprised by that. We've got I think that's Morgan Butler just coming out the pit lane there. He had a great week last week at Monza. I still haven't made the Appreciation Club page on my website. Nella coming in the background in the McLaren, which does
the Ford.
Yes, sorry, the Ford with the blinky eye thing that it does, as the BMW does that with the fog lights. But you might think you could get black flag for that because you've not got your headlights on at night, really. But one of each, it'll do. Adam Watson then still has Blackhall behind him, but look at that. Hackerson is ahead now, Paul.
Yes, absolutely. So Hackerson with a quicker pit stop as well. So I've got to question, did Watson just have maybe a little bit of a small penalty to serve, or was he just filling up that little bit more for this first stint? Go longer in this one, then get the shorter pit stop in the second stint.
Yeah, I suppose we're in that unfortunate position where we won't know till later, but that's one of the beauties of this, because you'll see the pace differences if they have fueled up differently or taken tyres and some haven't. In terms of the fuel, you mentioned it was limited earlier. I believe it's 75% fuel, and in GT3 cars, a tank usually lasts about an hour. I think it's 55 minutes-ish around Daytona. So to see the pit stops before the 45-minute mark does make sense. It's quite a long lap here as well, and you are on full throttle for most of it, so you don't want to use all of the fuel and risk having an extra lap. Watson, though, is dancing around on the back of Ben Hackerson's car here in the Ford. And we've seen, though, I mean, the Ford is a very low, slippy machine. We've seen him go into first gear in the corners. I mentioned it last week. The long ratios of this car mean it is very fast in a straight line. And because you can get such a long first gear, it's really good when it comes to the engine braking into corners, Paul, because there's so much of the engine braking that you just sometimes need to just let off for a corner. You don't actually have to brake where others do.
Miranda Sarica, who was the race leader, coming onto pit road for his first scheduled pit stop right about the hour mark here. So of course he did have to pit after basically after 2 laps to get repairs done to his car. So he's out of sequence. He's going to end up having 3 pit stops throughout this race. Here comes Watson to the inside. Hackerson knows that that's pretty much a lost cause, is that one, for the time being, so just lets him by, slots back in behind. So it's now Adam Watson back to second place. Question is Ben Hackerson going to be slower than Blackhall? Is Blackhall going to be putting the pressure on? What will happen in this group? We'll have to wait and see. By the way, if you are watching and do want to keep up to date with everything that's happening in this race, then make sure you check out the live timing and scoring, which is available on the RaceSpot website. That is racespot.tv/timing2. That's the number 2. So racespot.tv/timing2 to be able to keep up to date with everything happening in this race. You'll see the live timing link appear in the bottom right hand corner of your screen as well periodically. Every couple of minutes or so you'll see that on screen as well, just as a reminder. But let's give you a little bit, now that we've had the pit stops, or the first of the pit stops here, let's give you a little bit of an update as to the standings then in this race. It is Josh Thompson who leads this one, 16.6 seconds ahead of this battle here for second place. Adam Watson, a Pro-Am driver, against Ben Hackerson, who's a Pro driver, and then Jake Blackhall, who's a Pro-Am driver, second, third and fourth. Then a little bit of a gap back to Mike Horder, who's in 5th place. Who's got Ross McFarlane, so a bit of a recovery drive for Ross, up to 6th place. Pete Harrod 7th, ahead of Michael Evdoka, with Lewis Bibby 9th. And Chris Wood rounding out your top 10. Your top, well, obviously your top Pro-Am is Adam Watson, who's in 2nd place. Your top amateur driver in this race, looking down my order here, it is going to be Dean Powell, 25th overall. He's got a bit of a gap in front of Craig Jones, so a nice little gap. And then Tony Draper, the 3rd place of the amateur drivers.
And of course, don't forget, Daniel Lee had that incident before as well, where he got contact with one of the McLarens. So all of that, and he's still leading the way in the AM class. So I'll be very happy with that.
Daniel Lee's Pro-Am.
There is. Oh, yes.
Chris Wood. Now this is interesting. He was in 10th place, so something has happened here. Now, is that the McLaren just having its usual tantrum going into turn 1, or is there something a little more afoot?
Something afoot, I smell here. That's Mike Gray.
Dear.
That's Mike Gray, Matt Draycott. Oh, this is getting sketchy, boys. But now Chris is on the inside here. Let's see, is Mike just going to tap him on the brakes into the rear? Oh, no, he's lost it on his own, and it goes the other way. Oh, he saves it once and then doesn't save it twice. But he's very lucky not to hit anything there. And I mean, if you can lose it in turn 1 at Daytona and not hit anything, you've done a really good job.
Yeah, and here's something that I've learnt from the past as well. You want to get turned around as quickly as possible, because you're in the firing line there. You've lost control there. You know, somebody else could see you have that happen to somebody else, and they end up losing control because they're worried about you.
Yeah. If you react to the incident as you're going into that corner, you suddenly become part of it. So it's definitely a place where you need to keep your wits about you. Someone that is going to need to keep their wits about them now is Ben Hackison, because Jake Blackall has gone down the inside here off the banking. But as you said before, Paul, describing it as a lost cause. It's very much correct, and the race suit and helmet of Ben Hackison, he's a fan of the colour pink, and we used to have Dunkin' Donuts liveries on our Kias, as everyone will remember, that knows Ben and I anyway. And it's good to see he's still repping the colours, but yeah, you can see just how long the gears are there. Some of these cars will be in 4th gear by the time Ben's just changing up into 3rd, so it's one of the little tricks up the sleeve of the Ford GT, but it can also hinder it a little bit sometimes, because it doesn't quite have the acceleration in terms of like 3rd or 4th in a normal GT car. So it's very much a joker in the pack, but it's good to see that Ben is wrestling it round well. And of course, Alex Neller took it to victory last week at Monza, and he too was actually fighting with Jake Blackall at the time.
Can I just point out that other coffee shops and bakeries are available that can provide donuts at confectionaries, but as they head on through, so it's the 3 of them together, but Josh Thompson just keeps on pulling away at the front of your field, so he's saying bye-bye to everyone. And let's have a look down your order, because there are a few battles elsewhere. Keep an eye on this battle for the time being, but there's battling for 7th place, Pete Harrod and Michael Evdoka, although to be honest, I feel those two will just work together in that one. You've then got Lewis Bibby, Michael Gray, Simon Field, who we lost Chris Wood from that battle. They're close together but not actually making any moves. Moreno Sarica up to 12th place now. He's only 30.5 seconds behind his teammate and race leader after getting involved in that shenanigans on lap 1.
It's a great comeback drive, isn't it? And as I said at the top of the broadcast, it's their bag. Really is their bag. So we're expecting to see that progress continue. We've got 54 minutes and 3/4 of this race left to go, as this is the battle for 14th and 15th, 2 stablemates and teammates here, Ethan Bass and Harold Stadler.
Well, it's not so much a battle really, is it? It's just 2 teammates working together, but I thought it was worth just pointing out that they are here. Ethan Bass, who has previously had some really good results as a Pro-Am, especially last week as well, didn't he? He had a good round last week, but that car gets onto the grass. That was one of the Team Lizard car, wasn't it?
Oh, it's not Draycott, is it?
I think it is Draycott.
37th.
And yeah, that's not the best idea. And he's flashing his headlights. I don't know why. You were the one that decided to go onto the grass there, Sunshine. But anyway, as they head on through. But it's worth pointing out that you got Harold Stadler and Ethan Bass. Now, Bass, Pro-Am, working away with the team now. He started off as an independent, but then got moved into the team when Jack Styles had to withdraw from the championship due to work commitments. So Ethan really is doing a good job to contribute to that team here at the moment.
Yeah, that's it. He's been a good addition, to be honest. I mean, some of when Ethan first joined the championship, I remember that for a while he was racing on a controller, and a lot of people would have preferred him not to drive in the series on a controller, because we've all seen on iRacing before, there's always that one guy that is on a controller, and he was a bit out of control. As I say that, it looked like he was going to go way too hot into the chicane there, but does a great job at collecting it. But yeah, he's done well for that team. He's been fishing for the results, you could say, and he's managed to land a big one in most cases. This is one of his stablemates, Cam Danson, the TechSense Fitstyle Motorsport car, with Daniel Lee, the msignsuk.com car, trying to go around the outside. And apologies for getting Daniel confused with his teammate earlier. Dean Powell was the one that is leading the AM class, but it's Daniel Lee, who I said we still need to get on board for some commentary, because his voice and composure is fantastic. His composure is great into the bus stop. Takes a lot of grass, but he's got the move sorted there, Paul. That was nice and tidy, and good stuff from Cam Dance as well. You know, he gave him the room, and he conceded the place nicely, and, well, that battle could reignite, but he got a fantastic run out of that corner, did Daniel.
Cam will be cursing last time out at Monza. He had a nightmare at Monza.
Yes.
Apart from the final race where everything went his way, but the first two races he had an absolute nightmare out there, and he did apologise afterwards, but he had to start the race from the back of the grid. Dean Powell, by the way, speaking of the msigns UK.com cars, battling away with Adam Hedgecock for 24th and 25th there for the Boosted SimSport team. So Powell, your leading amateur, he doesn't need to make these moves, but as we've said in previous rounds, they need to get those extra spots, because there's not a separate point standings for amateurs.
Yeah, that's it, because they're all overall positions are what count towards your points. If you're one of the lucky AMs in one of the reverse grid races, like we saw with Morgan Butler last week, he was right up there in all three races. He won the AM class in both of those races, but his overall positions were quite good as well. Adam Watson's overall position is good enough at the moment that Jake Blackhall really wants to take it off him. Well, he takes it as they cross the line then.
Well, Blackhall actually took the position on the last lap, but it's pretty close between them. Watson nearly ended up in the pit wall there.
Yeah, well, Blackhall took a bit of grass on the inside of turn one there as well, and had a right moment trying to settle it on the brakes again into the International Horseshoe. Keep an eye out for Ben Hackerson trying to send one up the inside as well, but he at the moment, Paul, seems to be the one that's just trying to watch what happens here at this point, and Watson and Blackhall are putting on a hell of a show for him, but a great battle between two Pro-Ams for second overall, and in all honesty, I wasn't expecting to see this tonight. We usually have a group of pros that breaks away, especially in this Daytona round. It's been in the World GT Championship for a good few seasons now, but what a great scrap we've got here, and Ben Hackerson's got probably the best seat in the house for it, in all honesty.
Certainly has, as Watson, he won't want to give this one up, and he certainly loves to put up a good fight, and he's putting up a tremendous fight here, but he'll be desperate to get back ahead of Jake here, because at the end of the day they're both battling it out for the Pro-Am Championship, so they want to get one up over each other here as they head on down into the bus stop chicane once again. Through they go, and you see the different lines there that Watson takes. A little twitch as well from Watson. That's a little bit of a heart in mouth moment for Adam.
Yeah, we've all had one or two minimum at the bus stop, but yeah, he keeps it composed. There's always someone that's had one of those moments. Is Simon Field, by the look of it. He's got the car going again. Doesn't look too damaged here. It might just be a spin, maybe a bit of contact. Let's have a little ganders at what's gone on. He's all on his own. Mike Gray ahead of him, Moreno Sarica just behind, on the limiter in towards the bus stop, on the brakes, turns it in, back end is going away a little bit. Oh, it's as he flicks it to the right, you could just see the weight transfer very quick there. Sarica just misses him, and wow, what a recovery that was.
Sarica, do you know what, I want to have another look at that one from Sarica's point of view here. We'll go on board with Sarica, and we'll get it slowed down. You can see Fields losing it, and that is unbelievably close between the two of them. But Sarica then up into 11th place now.
Well, if anybody's looking for a mould of the McLaren front bumper from the MP412,
there's this P1 car spinning in front of him. That's Gavin Baker.
Yeah, it looks. He's got a bit of damage on that. Oh my lord!
Right in the middle of the corner. That's not the best. He's got a damage. Yeah, he's got significant damage.
I think maybe the front end might have pinched in a little bit much there, or he's had a tap from somebody as he's gone in. But yeah, the P1 guys, they have said that it's their first league in iRacing, so maybe a little bit of inexperience there with that rejoin. We've got one of the Team Mad cars going very slowly there. I think, is that Michael Blake? It will be, won't it? Or is it Mark Woodhouse in 33rd overall? It's
not been a good day it's not been a good season for the Team Mad team. It seems, apart from Chris Wood, who actually has had not the best of days here, but yes, Hackerson's just dropped back a little bit here from this Watson and Blackhall battle, and in fact Watson is slowly falling back from Jake as well, so the two of them, he's lost 0.3 of a second, has Adam, on that last lap. Does close up into turn 1 though on the braking, but of course that accordion effect will then see Jake onto the power first and pull away slightly as they go through there. Looking through, you see, always constantly looking for a battle, looking for something that's happening out there, and at the moment everything's just sort of spread out a little bit now. Kieran Chung and Nathan Dixon, they're about 0.7 of a second between the two of them. In your amateur class, we've got Baker is onto pit road. I'm hardly surprised with that damage that he's got. Matt Woodhouse is onto pit road as well. He's going to be pushing that a little bit to make it to the end on fuel there, with 47 minutes remaining. Yeah,
that's I think we're going to see him do at least a splash and dash for the end. We've seen a couple of drivers do that before, where they've taken tyres in the first stop to just make sure that while the field is a little bit more bunched up after the first set of stops, that they can at least get the most out of their car and then just try and readjust for the end of the race. And that comes back to what I was saying before, where you need to just gun it. In the first stint, just go for it. Don't worry about preserving anything. Just make sure that you use all fuel, use the best of the tyres, change the tyres in the first stop, and then you can develop your driving and adapt to how the car is towards the end of the race. Just put the fuel in that you need, save that time in the pit stop, and go to the end. It was always how it worked to me, but I didn't have the pace to back up any results from it. So hopefully some of these guys think the same way and try that out. And I'm sure with their pace that's probably a lot better than mine, we'll see what they've got. But look how good that Ford looks there with Ben Hackerson, and Watson nearly felt how good it was then for a second into turn 1. But Hackerson really doing a great job at wrestling that thing around, and so too is Neller, I must say. I mean, I know he had his incident earlier and he's down in 34th, but we saw last week that they've both got a really good hand on that car, haven't they?
Now, one driver who's catching these, of course, is Ross McFarlane. So he's had that repair done to his car. You can see the front of his car now completely as it was designed by the Mercedes engineers, and he will now be pushing on and trying to get as good a position as possible here. He's got Jake Blackhall at the front of this group. They're stablemates, of course, in that Pure Sims team, and so Jake, I mean, he won't want to do the favour. Oh, has Jake actually got a little bit loose on corner exit? Is this an opportunity for Adam Watson now?
Got to think so. He's going to know that Jake is starting to crumble a little bit there, a little bit of wobble here and there. I think we're going to see the Audi go past the beautiful sound of the 5.2 litre V10 and the Audi R8 LMS screaming its way down Daytona, down the back straight. Jake brakes a bit earlier, let's say, and does a fancy little flick left and right through the bus stop. And now McFarlane's going to set his sights on Hackerson. He's not going to be hanging around here. He's just thinking, right, one at a time, let's go through these drivers. I'm one of the quickest guys in the pack, onto the back of the Ford. And yeah, look at that, Ben knows. And as you said before, Paul, you may think that Ben knows it's a lost cause, there's no point fighting it, but getting out of the way like that as well and going up high means that Ross doesn't have to take the long way around. It's very clever driving to try and close back up ahead. Look at the overspeed from that Merc. That thing is honestly a bullet down there, isn't it?
It has got some incredible speed as this Mercedes. Incredible grunt from that car. Of course, the long bonnet on it, it does make it a bit of a bit of an oil tanker around the corners, it feels like at some points, but if you can hook that car up, it can be an incredibly effective GT3 car. And Ross McFarlane, since he's switched over to this car, has been showing how effective he's been in this Mercedes, because he's up there challenging for positions and for race wins.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Ross has always been a quick driver in whatever you put him in, but he's showing that Mercedes is good. As Bibby is off the circuit, Lewis has had what we can only describe as an excursion onto the infield there. Whether he's come from the first corner or out of the International Horseshoe, we'll have to see. Here he comes out of turn 1. Does he clip the grass or the gravel or anything? It all looks okay at the moment. Is there going to be a moment out of the Horseshoe then? Onto the brakes. Nothing really in front of him. Is he just going to light it up? Oh, it's going to be the grass. Ready? There it is. Yep. That's I've seen that happen many a time in the Daytona 24 hours. I'm sure you have as well, Paul. It's just that little bit of over-eagerness on the throttle on the exit, and it can chuck the car out to the right. And because you're on the curb as well and the car's bouncing around and it's unsettled, it happens oh so quickly. This is the battle between the two stablemates then, Ross McFarlane in the Pure Sims Esports car and the SimSports Racing USA machine of Jake Blackhall. Yet these two both race with Pure Sims as the umbrella behind all of that. Jake does the same that Ben did, gets out of the way, but look at that, when it gets top end, that thing, he's just going to drive around Adam Watson like he's not even there.
Watson will put up a good fight, that's for sure. He wants to keep that second place, does Adam. This is an incredible recovery drive from Ross, considering that he had damage for the first stint in that car. He's 21 laps since his pit stop, so he's going to be getting close towards making his final pit stop here as Ross. So he'll be having to take on more fuel. So that's what, I suppose, that's what Adam Watson is hoping for here, because Ross in that pit stop was only 19.5 seconds compared to Adam Watson's 32.3 seconds in the pit box. So that shows the difference in the two cars with their pit stops, with Ross having to take that very early first pit stop.
Yeah, the damage, it would have hindered him so much over the course of the race. He's going to be very happy to have got that monkey off his back there. But yeah, remember, Paul, the first round of the season we got there and thought, hang on, there's no Mercedes here. And everyone was saying, oh, the Mercedes is rubbish, they've killed it. But look at this, Adam Watson knows that that Mercedes is fast. He's getting out of the way of it. Ross McFarlane's showing us that it's great. It's a shame we've not seen much of his teammates Ben Palmer and Nickel Foggy. So Ross is really upholding the honour of Pure Sims Esports at the moment. And what a fantastic effort he's putting in. He's really showing the pace of that car, up to second overall now. And we have said that it's been McFarlane and Adoka that have really been the two prime drivers to challenge the Williams Esports guys, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly have. Watson was slow off the chicane as well, I do have to report, because he got a little bit loose. And here comes Blackhall trying to make the move. And that BMW is just sitting behind once again. Decided not to make the move, so nothing forthcoming from Blackhall. Now I did notice something on my timing screen, so we're just going to try and have a look and see. I saw Daniel Lee was going slow, or it was his teammate Dean Powell that was going slow, one of the two. And I'm just seeing if there was anything in this whilst we go on.
That looks like it's going in hot.
There you go.
Yep. Yeah, that was... you can just tell he got away with that, I think. I'm not sure what the damage is like.
Hitting the tyres is significantly better than hitting the guardrail, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. He's got Tom Jacobs behind him there as well. Tom's done a really good drive so far in this race. He started quite far down, but he's 23rd at the moment. But yeah, you could just see when the car goes over that little crest and that little bump on the way into that corner, the right-hander at the bottom of that sort of kinked straight as such, you just know when it's going to go wide. I've actually, there's hilarious footage of me losing my concentration, watching the cars behind flashing their lights and going straight into that wall at a ridiculous pace, and it instantly flips onto its back. And I know so much, well, I know from so much experience of getting that corner wrong that it's easy to do. You carry the pace so much through the kink, through the left-hander, once you try and get the car settled. If it's not settled by the time you've got the brakes on, then you have no chance and you are going in, because you can see it just there. There's a little tiny bump part way round, and as you start to turn the wheel, you know whether that car is going to make the corner or whether it's going to understeer or even oversteer. Oh no, that's Kieran Chung around at turn 1.
It certainly is, and he's struggling to get it back around. Meanwhile, by the way, Ross McFarlane has headed himself onto pit road. So he's getting his second pit stop, but we'll have a look at the replay then of Keiring. Heading into turn 1, he's overtaking one of the Lizard cars. Out the way goes the Lizard car, and he's just, that back end just carried a little bit too much speed. He's taking that different line. You're not used to taking that different line into turn 1. You're used to really arcing it out. It's taking a wide line through the corner, and with you taking that tight line, you don't realise that you have to just woe it up a little bit more and slow it down, as Gavin Baker as well onto pit road yet again for Gavin, but he's away. But Ross McFarlane now, this is his longer pit stop, 31.3 seconds.
Yep, he's back in to get the car serviced, get it ready. Careful on the exit, you don't want to hit anything there. It's very easy to do that as well, and that's another thing I've got experience with, is hitting that pit wall. I've seen a lot of people do it. Ben Gregory just ahead of Ross there on track in the Jericho liveried car. Now this is still going on here, Paul. Jake Blackhall all over the back of Adam Watson, and it says upshift on the back of that car, and Jake's going to be thinking, I'm trying, trust me. You can see he backs out a little bit early there, just so he doesn't compromise his run into the bus stop. Gets a great slingshot out of it. They've got John Roberts ahead in the Ferrari, but it's just still not enough though. We'll see what he does here. Let's just stay on with him for a sec and check out the slipstream, see what he gets from it. Certainly closing and closing and closing. I think he's just trying the sort of the smart game.
He's
here
on the limit. No, he's on the limiter. He can't go any faster, can Jake?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, look at it. You can just see the red light flashing as well. Obviously, I can't hear the car as well as you can, but yeah, that's down to setup, isn't it? Really, Paul. At the end of the day, if you've got the car set to a point where it cannot go over that pace, then let's just face it, it's not going to happen.
Well, don't forget they're fixed with the
oh yeah, they are, aren't they?
Gearing. Now, Lewis Bibby, we've lost Lewis Bibby. He's on pit road. What has happened to Lewis? This is at the bus stop chicane. Oh, we've just lost him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's well, complete disconnection there. Yeah, straight off. And it's interesting that we've seen this a few times, because a lot of the time,
he ended up in the wall. Yeah, so
suddenly he's there in the barrier. It's weird.
And in fact, he's out. He's dropped out the race.
Oh, that's such a shame, that is. And well, we do associate those sorts of things with like a mechanical failure on the car, don't we? A lot of the sims don't really simulate mechanical failures like engine failures out of the blue, or suspension breaking, or a tyre going down, and that's what we sort of substitute it with, is technical issues when it comes to like hardware failures and internet problems. So it's luck of the draw, I'm afraid, but that's a real shame for Lewis, because he was on for a good haul of points. But one thing I was going to mention is the fact that usually if there's going to be an issue, you'll see a car sort of blinking around quite a lot before it disappears, don't you? That was just gone.
Pete
That was
Harrod.
He likes a drift. Look at that.
It was a bit too much, was that one for him, even for Pete, who's of course used to compete in drifting, didn't he? So so he's used to the car control. Gives his teammate a flash of the lights as well.
15 horsepower, I've told you.
Yeah, but Pete will have certainly had a heart in mouth moment with that one, as we're getting towards the latter end of the race here, 35 minutes, so we're getting close to the final pit stops. We've already seen Ross McFarlane has his final pit stop in this race. Dean Powell has just made his way off of pit road. In fact, there he is in that msignsuk.com car. Michael Gray just working his way through. Hal Stadler and Chris Wood heading on to pit road, so they're both making their final pit stop of the race. We'll keep on going back to this battle on screen, because it is pretty much the closest battle that's of major concern for us. But Jake Blackhall can't get past Adam because of that top speed of the BMW.
Yeah, and like you said, I completely forgot that they were fixed in terms of the gearing now, because I know that a while ago you used to be able to change it. I think,
yeah, you did. You used to be able to change it.
And because I remember how much we had to mess about with it on the Ferrari when we did the Daytona 24 here. So I can't really think of much else within sim racing or iRacing that would be more frustrating than that, than knowing that your car can catch up with the slipstream, but top end it's just not got the actual legs to stretch. So he needs to get it done on the infield, doesn't he, Paul? Because everywhere else, let's face it, unless there is a mistake from Adam Watson, That's going to be impossible to do in the slipstream.
Oh dear. Tony Draper has had an incident at turn 1. I think he's had a bit of a spin. We'll have a look at this one then. Oh, he's battling away with the 88s. That's Craig Jones. Please don't say that they've had a coming together.
Oh, we've seen a few comings together with these SCC cars before.
Oh, close to the Vulcan car as well.
Yeah. It was like the yellow and black cars were just attracted to each other in terms of livery. Also, how much does that look like an old Minardi, that livery? I've just realised.
I think Mohammed Janko would have been looking in his mirrors going, oh no, not again.
Yeah, help. He probably just put his foot down and just hoped it didn't spin up the rears. But yeah, I do come back to my comment. That car definitely, that's like an old Minardi livery, that one. I like that. I've not realised it until now. It's literally just clicked. And I'm a huge fan. But here is Jake Blackhall putting on the disco with the pit lane speed limiter. It looks like Jake's been doing some naughty donuts out of that pit box previously as he gets back underway. And he's going to want that clear air again, isn't he, Paul? He's going to just get that outlap done, get some really strong pace done. 26 seconds for the pit stop.
That's again a short pit stop.
Yeah, they're not taking tyres, are they? I think no one's
taking tyres, that's for sure.
Yeah, no one wants to risk losing that amount of time for what they don't... Well, they won't know how much they're going to gain when they've got the new tyres on, so they're just going to crack on. Because it's almost, if you think about it, with the limited fuel, as I said before, GT3 cars, they last around, 45 to 55 minutes on a tank, sometimes dependent on the circuit. If you double stint the tyres in an endurance race, it's 2 hours almost. So to do 1 hour 45, it's just like double stinting them. So they know that the tyres have the capability to do that double stint. And I think that's all that they're exercising now. There's no point because of how much time you'll lose to your competitors in the pits. And here is Sarika on the back of Pete Harridan after that incident before. I bet Pete didn't expect to see him again.
Well, Sarika has stayed within 31 seconds of his teammate Josh Thompson, who's at the front of the field on his own. 26 seconds ahead of Adam Watson is Josh. Now the thing is, the point was raised by Bobby Charles. Thank you very much, Bobby, for your contributions to the chat, by the way.
Yes.
He's saying that he's surprised that Josh Thompson was able to clear off like he did. The thing is, if you can break the slipstream, especially around here, if you can break the slipstream of the car behind you, you're able to just then pull away. You're just able to focus on yourself, get your markers right. If the others are then involved in a battle, which is what Second Down was involved with at this first part of the race, then you're going to be able to pull away and just waltz away with it.
Yeah, definitely. And when we know that Josh is as good as he is, the infield makes such a difference as well, because let's face it, we could all probably drive around the oval as Pete Harrod needs to get a taxi to that apex, and Sarika says, oh, if you don't want it, I'll have it, thank you very much. But as I was going to say, let's face it, we could all drive, keep our foot flat and drive round an oval. So if you're going to lose time there, then you know that's an issue, because everybody can do it the same. You know, everyone can smoothly turn around there and smooth the line out and go towards the wall. But if you're comparing your lap times based on the infield, where there's a bit more, I mean, I'm not saying there's no skill involved, but where there's more skill involved and more variables on the infield, if you've got a car that really nails that, then you don't need to worry about the top end, do you? And as long as you can get that sorted and you've got a car that is really good on that middle section, he's going to clear away. And I think that's exactly what he's done, because they'll know that the BMW, I mean, Williams have got so much intel and so much information on these cars, and they look so much into it, do so much hard work. But that's obviously why they're one of the best teams in the world, but it's the fact now that they won't have worried about that top end speed. Their first thought is, right, what do we do about that infield? How do we overcome that? And Josh has shown us just how well that is working.
Exactly. You look. It's so easy just to look at this track as Mike Horder now coming under pressure from Michael Abdoka. Oh no, Adam Watson! Adam Watson's off at the International Horseshoe. It'd been going so well for Adam. Let's have a look. Let's bring it up on screen right now. What on earth has happened to him? He has got a car in front of him going off. That's a Lizard Motorsports car, sort of kind of getting in the way. Please don't say that these two have had to come together. Into the braking.
Oh, no.
And around. That was contact.
Yeah, and guess who? I'm afraid. He's known as the better Dracot, but I think in Adam's eyes right now, I'm sure that he'd rather not be speaking to one of us. I'd like to see another look at that, because it looked to the point where it wasn't a massive tap, was it? But it's on the brakes, that's all it takes to unsettle the car. On board with Draycott now then. See, Adam just goes through on the left-hand side. And he tries to, yeah, we saw that before, didn't we? Yeah, we saw it before where they try and straighten it up, don't they? Just to hope that the car in front turns in and gets out of the way naturally. But yeah, I'm afraid that Draycott broke a bit too late there and caused that one.
Daniel Lee onto pit road. Meanwhile, Sarika now trying to make move on Mike Horder for what is now 4th place. He's trying to get here. McLaren versus BMW. This is where Sarika will be... I'm having a few technical problems here at my end. Yes, where Sarika will be finding out the problems with the slipstream as well. Hopefully we can get this all sorted out. I think we might be down to you doing a little bit of radio commentary for me here, Chaz.
Well, I'll try and keep us up to what we've got here, but I've also had a similar issue. I'm not sure whether something's happening with the server here because I've lost this as well. It's a very interesting one. Sorry about this, everybody. We will try and make sure that we can give you as much info as possible. But yeah, as Paul was saying though, Josh Thompson was clearing off at the front of this, 26 seconds clear. But it's such a shame to see that issue there from Adam Watson, because this is one of the worries of these endurance races, is the fact that it's down to traffic sometimes as well. It's not just a simple sprint where you've got one group of cars that are leading the way and all on one lap. And yeah, it looks like we've lost the server.
So there. What we're going to do then is we are just going to quickly step aside just until we can find out what's happening here. So make sure you stick around. Hopefully we'll get some form of conclusion to this race here. But we're just going to step aside whilst hopefully we get all these issues sorted out for you.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $400,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
rolling out for the start of today's 400-lap race on this .625-mile racetrack. Here's the starting lineup. On the pole from Dawsonville, Georgia, in the number 9 Coors Ford qualifying and Winston Cup race from North Wilkesboro is underway. Everybody nicely through turns number 1 and 2 as Bill Elliott has the lead and Dale Earnhardt has jumped into second position, followed by Benny Parsons and Bobby Allison.
Hello everybody, welcome to, well, what should be the ongoing race here, but unfortunately there have been some major server problems here on this race, so the race is currently under a red flag. The admins are currently looking into what they're going to do about this situation, but we thought we'd just bring you back just to give you a little bit of an update as to what's happening. It's a little bit unfortunate that was coming to a red flag because Chaz, we were just starting that second pit stop phase there, and we were having some really good battles throughout the field, and what I'm thinking of was, until this unfortunate little issue with the contact with Matt Draker, Adam Watson was doing a really good race up in second place until he, as I say, had that contact.
Yeah, it's such a shame, and as I was saying there, as things went downhill, it's the fact that you have to think about something more than just being in one pack and have one field on the same lap. You know, with the traffic here, even at a track as long as Daytona, it spreads out a lot in terms of who the quickest drivers are and who some of the slower guys are further down the order. So you have to sort of try and work it to your advantage. It's not always easy to do, and I'm afraid I can't really I tend not to try and defend my brother from a commentator's perspective. I do remain neutral, but yeah, I can't even defend him there in that one, because it was just a bit of poor late braking, unfortunately. Maybe didn't expect Adam to go that early, but then again, Adam was going where a lot of us normally would, and he did try and straighten it up a bit, but still, contact happened at the end of the day, and Adam lost out for that. But pending the result, obviously, I mean, tiny bit of speculation here, but this is nothing based on what the admins are doing or anything else. But if it goes back a couple of laps, then Adam could actually be reinstated with that second place.
Well, as you point out, we do have to wait and find out what's happening here. But we thought we'd bring everyone back here. Now, unfortunately, we can't go back and look at any of the highlights of the race here because we've been kicked out of the server, so we can't do that. So there are only one or two series that I know of, and the new Endurance series is one of those that come to mind, because I used to actually help out with the stewarding of that. They actually had to write in red flag rules because of something that happened in a race earlier on in their existence, and I think this is going to instigate a red flag rule that the admins will put into the rule book.
Yeah, definitely, and I mean, as you said, it's not really something that we tend to account for, because it doesn't really happen. I mean, I was just saying to you then, once it went down, that I've never seen it happen before, and the fact that you got disconnected, usually, as you handed to me, I would have been able to say, oh, okay, so this is what's going on, everybody, welcome to Race Spot Radio for a moment. But no, I had the same, and it completely kicked me out, and then I thought, well, hang on. If I've been kicked out and you've been kicked out, what are we going to do? And then all of a sudden, nobody. I saw the Discord server, and it still is lighting up now.
Yes.
The fact that everyone got kicked at once, I've never seen that in my time on iRacing, and I've been doing this, 6 years now? So it just shows you how rare an occurrence it is. And especially with, combined between us, Paul, with how many sessions we've been in as well to commentate and broadcast. The fact that we've never really seen it is, again, testament to the quality of the servers, of course, from iRacing, but these things happen. It's technology, isn't it? You sometimes can't get away from it. We do rely on it heavily, and most of the time, 99.9% of the time, it's fantastic, but I'm afraid that it's you've got to be realistic. It does happen.
Well, I mean, you look back to events that have happened in motorsport elsewhere. I mean, you look at Formula One in the United States Grand Prix of 2005, when you had Michelin having their problems not being able to provide safe tyres, involving all but 6 cars from being able to take the grid. You've also got, there was a Porsche Super Cup race once where you actually had it where the drivers went round to the grid, and they were about to start off on their warming up lap, and the race got red flagged. And the reason it got red flagged was because they'd found there'd been problems through practice where the wheel rims were actually cracking and breaking on multiple cars, and they decided for safety reasons we don't take the start at all. So things like this do happen in real world as well, where events just happen outside your control. I mean, look at weather-affected races as well. They get, I think of Adelaide, I think it was 1991, I believe it was, when they only actually ran 16 laps before red flagging. So things like this do happen in real-world racing. Why can't it happen in sim racing?
Well, I mean, a prime example, I was commentating at Thruxton, not this weekend, just on the weekend before, and there was a race with some caterers where I think it was like lap 2 or 3. They'd had an incident into the final chicane. We all know what the final chicane at Thruxton's like. It certainly does provide a bit of a bottleneck, let's say. There's 5 or 6 cars involved, big mess in front of the commentary box, and they had to red flag the race. So the cars that were still going, they went round, did another lap, and they kept them all lined up just at the end of the straight in front of us. And then a marshal came out and said, right, clean up operations finished. We'll get you all you go line up here, you go line up there, and got them all dotted about on the grid and ready to start the race again. They turned the red lights off on the gantry, and everyone went, ooh, and went to go, and they were like, no, this is going to be the green flag lap. Marshal at the front waves the green flag. and the whole field went at full race pace. And me and the other commentator in this box, we were watching them go around the far end of the circuit, and they were overtaking each other, going 3 wide, doing what caterhams do. And we thought, they need yellow flags out here, because these lot are going at race pace, and we don't think everyone realises it. And there was 2 marshals stood on the grid, the heroes that they are, obviously with the yellow flags to say, right, these are where the first 2 cars line up, everyone go behind. And these 2 marshals are still stood on the grid when the whole field at race pace came out the final corner. And luckily they got out of the way, everyone was fine. There was no issues with that, but then, yeah, the race got red flagged very quickly, and all the drivers got disqualified and taken into the pit lane for a very stern talking to, I think is the PG way of saying it. But,
yeah, the clerk of the clause would have had something to say, wouldn't they?
Many wrists were slapped, I must say. But, you know, these complications and these things do happen, and I come back to my point as well, that it's technology. You know, it's not human error that's caused this, it's something has just gone wrong somewhere in the chain of all these things that work up to iRacing doing what it does, and unfortunately it's cost us this race. But you know, we'll still wait and see. I mean, I'm keeping my eye on the screen here for when there is an announcement. I'm sure Paul's doing exactly the same.
I've got the phone out as well, because I've been looking at this. So potentially they could be looking at giving a 50% points at 50% race distance. If everyone had done 1 pit stop by that point. I
believe they do that anyway, because in this series... it's not this season, is it? No. To explain, in prior seasons to this, the championship has usually run 1.5-hour races. They'll give points to everybody based on their positions at the 50% point of the race. So they'll go onto the lap chart and just give points for that, which is half points, and then they'll give full points at the end of the race. So, I mean, maybe a solution here could be they will just give... full points.
So just to confirm, there will not be a rerun of the race. Simple as. We've had that confirmed by the admins of the series, because if they did rerun the race in its entirety, then it would be potentially unfair if people had made plans, and that's completely right in my opinion. There's going to be no restart of this race, so I've just had it confirmed by the admins as well. So thank you, Matt, for getting in touch with us there.
Yes.
So we will not be getting a restart of this race. That has been confirmed, and what we'll do is we will end this broadcast in just a few moments' time. The best place to look for information, if you are wondering as to what's happening in terms of the decision that's made and the outcome, will be to look at the World GT Championship website. They will have updates on there, or their social media as well. They have social media accounts, so make sure you go to wgtc.uk to keep up to date with what's happening. But no restart happening, and it's the correct decision in my mind to not rush and make a decision about what happens with the results tonight.
Yeah, for sure, and that's the thing. It's easy to. I mean, the chat right now on obviously Paul will see this as well. The chat in the Discord right now is just it's like a famous YouTuber's chat. It's just completely going up. It's skyward. You can barely read it. It's kicking off. Well, not kicking off. People aren't arguing. They're just giving their suggestions. You know, everyone wants to help out in this scenario, and that's one of the great things about it. But it's just let the admins come to their decision. They're not going to give in to the peer pressure, which is good, because I've been in leagues before where if drivers have an outcry for something, then they'll just give it to them, and that's not the way to do it. No. You want to make sure that you make the right decision for everybody. You're never going to please everyone. That's one thing you have to admit as an admin. I mean, we've both been there before, Paul. It's just we may not get the answer now, so there's no point us hanging around to wait to give you guys an answer when. If you really want the information, I mean, no offense, obviously this is going to sound blunt, but you can go and get it. It's how it is, you know. The information is going to be available, which is one of the best things about this, is that it's very accessible for everybody. So we do appreciate, obviously, your patience and sticking with us on the stream as well, everybody. So thank you very much for that.
Well, let's have a look ahead then to next week then. It's a bit earlier than I imagined that we would be having this chat. But next week it's 3 sprint races at the Nürburgring on the World Endurance Championship layout. So that's the more open of the 2 chicanes at the end of the laps. And your thoughts on there? Me and you have both raced there here in this championship. It's quite difficult with these GT3 cars, but moves can be made, and that opening arena section is going to have a lot of fun happen there.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a lot of fun on that circuit. I mean, I won't lie, I absolutely hate that first section in terms of driving it because I am terrible at it, like really terrible at it. And I think it kills a bit of the flow of the track. However, from a broadcasting perspective and a commentator's perspective, it's brilliant because you see so many different lines around there, people running wide out the first corner when they've sent it deep on the brakes. And then we've got the left-hander as well. I mean, Lewis Hamilton pulled off a fantastic move around the outside there years ago. We've seen it can happen. And then you've got almost a mirror of the first two corners again after that, before going on to what is one of the original parts of the circuit. So, yeah, we've got the last chicane as well. I mean, down to the hairpin. There's so many overtaking places. And in these cars as well, we've seen it in this championship before. One of the first times I ever commentated on the series as a one-off stand-in as well. There was so much going on, and Josh Thompson was a real star there in the BMW, so he's going to be one to watch. And he's just messaged me a moment ago, and he says he absolutely had a moment there because he thought his internet died again, because we've seen it happen this season, and leading the race he thought his internet had gone, so he got angry for a sec, then realised it was all fine. But yeah, Nürburgring next week anyway. Belter, absolute belter.
Well, that is all we're going to have time for then today. Yes, apologies, but these things happen in these races and in sim racing. But thank you very much, everybody, for joining us for this broadcast. From myself, Paul Smith, and from Chaz Draycott alongside me here, and from everybody here at Racebot TV, including Isfan Ballo, TrackCams 22, for all your TrackCam needs. Make sure you check that out as well. Hugo Luis as well, behind the scenes, who gives us these gorgeous B-roll footage here. Oof. Thank you very much, Hugo, as well for that. But until next week at 10 to 8 UK time, that's 10 to 7 UTC, Monday night, it's the Nürburgring in the World GT Championship. From everybody here, it's goodbye.
Sometimes I'd like to be alone in my own mind. I feel at home within these walls. I fear my own absence of association.